What about offensive linemen?
Wouldn't be shocked.
I saw this. I saw this. It's not going to be the greatest graphic because it's a little blurry, but bear with me here. This is on Bet Michigan. Bet Michigan. It's a Michigan sports betting and gambling basically, and they
Never
have
heard of
their
it,
own.
actually.
Yeah, they have their own like whatever. Again, this isn't like FanDuel, but I saw this. Not that this is like the Bible, like it's you're reading this. It's like these are the official odds, but just to see like Graham Barton on here at 29 as like more of a favorite than like
These
a
are for the
lot of
Lions
players.
picks.
At
Yes.
29. This is 29th pick.
Sneak
You
Tyler
see
Nubin
a little
in
down
like
there?
that, bro?
Yeah,
You see that, Lucas?
This list just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I saw this, and this is Lions fan report. Shout out to them, by the way.
See
Yeah, they
who's
do a good
tied to be the wide receiver off the board for the Lions?
You got a Donnie Mitchell, and then Xavier Legette, Darius Robinson.
I wouldn't hate either of them.
100. So hey, there's I mean, you have Graham Barton as a favorite, plus 500. Tyler Nubin, plus 700. Kool-Aid McKinstry, plus 700. Again, this isn't all sports books, but this is specifically this sports book. But like, I just wanted to bring up like the possibility of,
Would you be mad if Graham Barton?
Here's the thing. All right, I'll say this. I'll say this about real quick, and while we get Lucas back here in a second, real quick about Graham Barton, because he's more of like they project him to be like an interior offensive lineman. So technically, he's projected to be like a guard. Which again, like, would I hate it? No, I wouldn't love it. And it's hard for me to say I'd even like it, but we've talked about Graham, like what he would mean. I mean, again, Kevin Zeitler is older. He's not getting younger. And if he goes down, because these things happen in the NFL, you got to be ready. You got to have some, Booner, what do you always say? Depth. Graham Barton, some depth, Booner. Graham Barton, some depth for you. So, how would you feel about a Graham Barton selection? Just throwing
that's
that
the very initial thought I had was the depth piece with our offensive line. You remember this last year? The thing was this last year, what you had Graham Glasgow as your depth piece. He wasn't coming into the year as a starter. You had Big V. You had Jonah Jackson. It was, hey, you have this guy coming off the bench that can play. That's what Graham Barton is. I as soon as I saw you put this in there in our prep today, I started like looking up, like, all right, what can Graham Barton do? What is he? A lot of people are saying he's probably one of the most versatile offensive linemen in this draft, and that he probably could play one of the position he'll probably end up playing in his career is center. And as soon as I heard that as well, is the first thing that I heard right away, it just makes me think Frank Ragnow. He's got this toe issue. And I know I was the one that was pretty like locked in saying Frank isn't going to want to leave until he gets a Super Bowl or that he gets a chance to at least get one. I still think there's a chance. Like, I wouldn't be mad because they're looking into the future. Like, your heart and soul of this team, the glue of this football team starts with the offensive line. And the glue of the offensive line, to me, like, Penn A is the best in the league right now, yes. But in every single offensive line around every team and in every level is the center. Like, that's where everything starts. He's calling audibles out. He's calling protections out. He's calling blitzes out. Everything goes through Frank Ragnow. And I listened to a podcast of him talking about that this year, of him and Jared communicating and doing that. When Frank leaves, you are going to need someone that's elite and very, very good there to back him up. And this is a guy to where if they do that, I know it's more so, yeah, you might not get all those reps next year, and you have Frank. You have the guards already. That's like such a big-time future pick. Like, that's like, hey, we want to be sustainable. That's why I don't hate the pick. And I've seen some places rank him higher than Jackson Powers Johnson. And when I was looking in it today, like he's a guy that's right there. And obviously Jackson Powers Johnson is not going to be available at 29. So if Graham Barton falls to you and they take him, I'm not going to sit there and be mad because that's almost as of elite type of player to where he's versatile. I think he might have played all 5 offensive line positions at Duke at some points.
Well, I saw on PFF they list him. I mean, they had him through his career as a tackle, but it says his projection is as a center. So, and I've seen guard. So I don't think
I believe he's played all 3 in college at one point or another. I could be wrong with that, but I believe he has.
And again, if you could sell me on that, like we've been a pro Jackson Powers Johnson show, so got to be consistent here. Graham Barton, if he is, who Brad Holmes believes can be the future at center. He could play guard right away if there's an injury. That makes sense. And you get a fifth-year option on him. That can make sense. Again, it just depends on the depth at guard and at center, really. I mean, there's Zach Frazier, JPJ. If you believe that Graham is the best or he's the best available, then hey, you probably got a damn good argument there. So I wouldn't hate it at all.
Because if someone gets hurt on the offensive line this year, like it's going to happen. We know there's going to be an injury for a couple weeks here and there. Who's your backup right now? And that's where it does come to me a little bit. Like, I know I was the one that brought up the JPJ thing where I was like, why would you take him at 29? Like, I kind of understand a little bit now because we had so many offensive line injuries last year to where you're like,
yes.
You would like to have someone elite to be able to step in, and you don't have that Graham Glasgow luxury anymore because he's starting for you now.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, to the whole point about offensive line depth, I think offensive line depth for this team, so important. It's so important for a lot. I mean, with how they run the ball, with how they've protected Jared, like you can certainly make an argument. Like I know Jim Costa put something out at the start of free agency and really just talking about the draft of free agency that the offensive line needs to be the number one priority because keeping this offensive line elite and keeping it number one should be something the Lions focus on. And he got flack for that, which is crazy. I know people were coming after him saying, how dare you, defensive line, corner, like, how dare you bring up offensive line? He's like, whoa, the point was never what they need the most. It's just their priority should be keeping this offensive line elite. And he's 100% right. Like, I agree with him. And I've said that a lot of times on the show. So
it's like sense. The engine of the football team. That is what keeps this football team running. If you have a bad offensive line, Jared Goff struggles. Can't get the ball to your receivers. Your offense at the top 5 offense is no longer a top 5 offense. Like that is a snowball effect to where once that offensive line gets too old, falls apart, injuries, you're in trouble. And that's like a fact. Like the Ravens, like there's games this year where guys are hurt and it's very noticeable. Like you notice that. Jared Goff struggles, like the offense struggles. It's tough. So I like that. Keep that thing up to date.
What'd you think about that, Luke? The Graham Barton potentially. I mean, project him as a center, an all pro guard, Pro Bowl center. He's not gonna play tackle, but if he was the pick at 29.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it. Sorry for my fucking Toledo/Haitian Wi-Fi right now. They probably got better Wi-Fi in Haiti with barbecue ruling right now, but I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it. And I think I heard you say, Booner, like I don't think Jackson Powers Johnson is going to be there at 29. There's been a lot of rumors lately that he's going to fall. And in my opinion, that was kind of what happened with Creed Humphrey when he was coming out of Oklahoma. You're like, this guy is a surefire first-round center. Maybe if he slides into the middle of the first round, but he dropped in the second round. And I think there's another situation with Jackson Powers Johnson where we can see that. I don't understand why people are overlooking him. I think if you watch the tape, it speaks for itself. Maybe it's an off-the-field type of thing. But if Graham Barton was the pick, he's getting projected to be an all-pro type of guy in multiple positions. So, again, I think it would be ignorant of me to be like, I can't stand the Graham Barton pick when in my mock draft yesterday, I traded up for Byron Murphy. I was like, this guy's going to be an all-pro type of player in 2-3 years. Won't be right away. But I think it's the same thing right there. And it's a safe pick that, to Booner's point, to your point, if you're in the NFC Championship game and Kevin Zeitler goes down, you don't have Yodi or Colby Sorsdahl in there. You have Graham Barton. And I think many teams would prefer that situation just because of how athletic he is. The only reason he's not a first-round pick at tackle is because he has shorter arms, and that's not a problem at guard or center because his athleticism is off the chart. So I wouldn't love the pick because I think there's players that could impact the team more year one, and I think in a Super Bowl window, I think that's what you should do, but I would still like the pick a lot.
Don't you think too, fellas, that like if Graham Barton or JPJ are there at 29 somehow, some way, that's probably like if you would break down the rankings of players, those are probably like, I know offensive lineman's not the prettiest of positions, probably the best player remaining at that point if Graham Barton's sitting there at 29.
One of the, for sure.
Yeah. So like you can look at it and you can make an argument. If Brad goes BPA, it's the same thing like his first draft with Penei Sewell. It's you could maybe make an argument. There's other guys on that board that are really good, but what's this team going to be based off of? Offensive line. Penei Sewell, best available player at pick 5. Like that was it. And that's the argument you almost can make with Brad here at 29, to where if one of those high level guys are sitting there, especially when you need depth and you do need that, And like that's going to be a BPA guy. Like that's going to be one of the best players left on the board. I don't see either of them actually even making it to 29. But if one of them did, that is like you almost have to be like, that could be an all-pro guy in his career. Like, and that's what our team's built off of. And you can get him at 29. It feels like a steal a little bit at that point. I would be shocked. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he did that.
I saw that too, to reference that Jackson Powers Johnson potentially falling. I've seen that. I've seen people talk about him being an early second round pick, like super early. So again, that kind of goes into the same discussion we had about like if Brad feels like a player is going to go soon after that pick, then you take him. I think you can make that argument for Graham Barton, Jackson Powers Johnson. Like those guys will be gone, 10 picks later, minimum or maximum, I believe. So I wouldn't hate an offensive lineman. Again, I believe in it. And again, it really comes down to how much Brad Holmes believes in Houston.